You're listening to NFT365, the first daily podcast on NFTs with your host, Fanzo.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of NFT365. And, I try my best on the podcast to, keep a, kind of a balanced approach to, positivity as well as keeping it real. I also try to really hone in on not only actionable advice, but really, we're all learning this together. And we hear this a lot, like we're all early or, nobody's an expert. But when you feel like nobody's an expert, it can also feel as though like you don't know where to turn or whose advice that you should be listening to. And I think with that also comes this weird kind of feeling, well, if nobody's an expert and if we're all learning together, then this is probably pretty easy to figure out. And, May is a Mental Health Awareness Month. As most of you know, I am a mental health advocate. Our coin that supports our podcast is the ADHD coin over there on Rally. And, I named it ADHD coin for many reasons, but one of them was just because I knew that it would be something I would be introduced by every time I took the stage as a speaker, or every time I was on the podcast. And it allows me to really just kind of address, a topic and try hopefully, remove some of the bias and the stigma, but also add a face and a little bit of reality to, ADHD. And, I like to say every minute of my day, every minute of my world is impacted by my ADHD. Even, this weekend, unfortunately, because of ridiculous healthcare regulations and the way that healthcare works is, they paused my prescription. So I actually don't have Adderall for the next probably, hopefully no more than 5 days. But, with that, comes a lot of the downsides, the byproducts of it. But really what I wanted to kind of talk about or kind of share was, mental health Awareness Month. Part of it is just really recognizing that it's okay to talk about some of the things that we were, programmed or trained not to talk about. And interestingly enough, in the NFT Web3 space, there's this weird feeling of we have this need to make things simple or to make things really freaking hard and complex, right? We're going to use a whole bunch of different language, different vernacular. We're going to make things very complex so that the average person can't understand it, so they have to hire us or they believe that we know more. Or we say things like 5 guaranteed NFT projects to buy today to get rich. And yet the person that's giving you that advice is living in their parents' basement and hasn't bought a single NFT this whole time. Or really that's even that's a whole nother pet peeve of mine, where there's so many people wanting to educate and teach on NFTs, yet they're not willing to put their kind of money where their mouth is. And I believe part of this is stop giving advice that you aren't willing to take it yourself, or at least back up. And it's so easy for us to live in that space. But I think the bigger piece of this is really everyone making things sound super easy or super hard, when really the gray area of flipping NFTs is not easy. Posting them, I just to get a little reality here, right? For me, I spend multiple hours a day researching, not only for new projects, right? Because that's where most people think when I say, I spend 4 hours a day researching my, for NFT projects. I also research the existing projects that I hold personally and looking at the trends to say, okay, is there a lot of volume today? Where's the floor price going? What was the original investment I had in this project? What am I trying to get out of it? Is now a right time for me to list it at 3x, or is now a great time for me to list it closer to the floor and just move out of the project? And listing and delisting, I always recommend, don't list an NFT for more than 7 days. Unless, of course, you're listing it for a ridiculously high price, then maybe that's not as much of a risk. But I like to do it at 3 days, right? I list most of my NFTs at a 3-day window, just because you don't know what will get hot, or a new trend, or maybe a celebrity will all of a sudden jump into that project, and all of a sudden the floor will jump, and you'll have a NFT listed at what you thought the floor was, 2 days ago, and really it's at a whole nother level. But even beyond that, right? thinking of it, like, I mean, this is where I sometimes even get myself in trouble with, the advice that I've shared here on the podcast, right? Because I firmly believe in the 3x3x3 methodology that we did an episode on a little while back. And I actually have a new version of that episode that I'm going to be releasing this upcoming week that I've really been mapping out. I actually have a whole interactive video for it. So those that, I know a lot of you also listen to this show or watch this show on YouTube, because we actually have record every episode on video. So they're all up there on YouTube as well for those that are interested in that. And, with a 3x3 methodology of buying 3, flipping 1 pre-reveal, which pretty much means putting it for sale as soon as you mint it. As long as the project mints out, then you can try to flip it before reveal for hopefully, 2.5x what you purchase it for, to try to cover, the other 2 that you own. But then there's people don't recognize that there's also like kind of the ebbs and flows of, of projects before, after, and I guess for me, part of the reality that I just want to make sure is very clear is that this can be very stressful, and there is the possibility of hitting the lottery, but you also have the possibility of hitting the lottery by playing the damn lottery. But there's a lot of people that don't play the lottery because they don't feel like it's worth the chance, worth the luck, right? And not everyone wins, right? And I think that's also a dose of this reality. And I will say this whole year, actually, 2022, when it comes to, crypto being down, so many NFT projects, part of this narrative to me has also, it's around just the idea that we have to kind of ride things out. And maybe this is because I'm a diamond hands by nature, but I've made some dumb flip outs early, right? Alien Friends is one that jumps to mind. MFers is one that jumps to mind. Even Squishies comes to mind. I also owned, multiple times I've owned a couple NFTs that many of you are familiar with that have popped off that I no longer have in my bag. And I will just say, part of the thing for me has always been you have to give yourself grace. And I will tell you, the day I flipped out of Alien Friends, I had I'd actually bought a top 100 rare. I had minted in, flipped a couple of them, bought into Alien Friends for a very rare one. And I remember I flipped out at 3.5x what I bought it for. But I think I flipped out at 0.8 Ethereum. And I believe now they're at 2.5 ETH. But I will tell you, for me, not only is that 3.5 a win, but at the time, it allowed me to buy the component that I needed to buy for Psychedelics Anonymous, which has allowed me to get 2 free mints since each one of those free mints has a floor price of up over 1 ETH. So it's very easy for me to be man, I can't believe I made that big mistake, flipping out of Alien Friends at that price point. But no, what's funny is I flipped out of it, and it allowed me to have the liquidity to buy into another project that I really care about. And that decision has garnered me 2 ETH worth of NFTs that are now at that floor price. But guess what? Just holding those 2, of course, prior to my wallet getting hacked, just holding those 2 actually has entitled me to 2 other NFTs. So in a weird way, the reason I wanted to kind of stress this out is that it's not easy. It's not about making things appear easy. It's not about making things appear hard. It's about recognizing that middle ground that we are in can be as complex as we want it to be, but we also can be as creative as we want to be. And, I have a pretty simple philosophy when people ask me how do I stay positive? How do I keep, motivated? How do I keep doing the podcast every day? And I always say, I have a philosophy. It's called screenshot awesomeness. And every time something awesome happens, I just take a screenshot. I put it into a folder that is on my desktop on my computer. Actually, I have it on my phone as well. And today, actually, my daughter said something really cute to me today. And I was like, hon, I need to take a video of that. And she's like, is that for your screenshot folder? And I was like, yes. So when you're driving me freaking crazy and I'm not sure if you love me anymore because you're an 11-year-old girl going through all the things that an 11-year-old girl goes through, I'm going to open this video where you tell daddy how happy you were and how impressed you were that I wore, a suit jacket to, the activity that we were going on. And and she was laughing, and I share that story because for me, like, life is like this as well, right? And this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think it goes perfectly in hot. Like, it's so easy for us to make assumptions or assume certain things, or even allow individual actions or reactions or individual decisions that we've made. It's very easy to like Monday morning quarterback and go back and blame ourselves or be mad at ourselves. But why don't we do that positively, like as we look forward? And it's funny. It wasn't even until this episode because I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about my alien friends experience. And I've always been a little bitter that the way that I exited alien friends, but I've actually made more because I exited and jumped into a project that I had been passionate about and researched about, but yet I still carry that as a loss. And I mean, this is tough. This whole, anytime there's like, we're dealing with humans here, right? We're dealing with, supply and demand. We're dealing with FOMO. We're dealing with speculation. We're dealing with innovation on the bleeding edge of blockchain technology, which I think is going to continue to change our world in ways that we've never imagined before. But I just hope we can all find ways to take a step back, and let's not look at like the little actions that we make as the only context to how we judge ourselves. And at the same time, I want to also say, something that I am not afforded myself with this project where I'm buying an NFT every single day is I haven't afforded myself the ability to pause. And that includes a podcast, right? We're doing a podcast every day. But I was giving some advice in Arizona this week when I was there speaking at an event. And someone just asked me like, hey, these are the things I've been doing and I'm holding on to them, but I'm not sure, should I use my liquidity? Like, what do you think I should do here? And I just looked at him and I said, I think you should pause. I think you have a pretty good bag right now. And I would just pause and wait for like the next project that grabs your attention. And he's like, well, Brian, what if I miss out on like the next VFriends or the next, and I was like, hold on a second, like project's going to come and go. But like, if where you're at right now is where that person had kind of said, I was like, you kind of have to just like sit in that and be okay with where you're at and, really allow yourself to kind of find the next thing that you're passionate about, the next one that comes to on your radar. And I say that because like all of these things, right? Like, I mean, yes, I can get mad at myself for not buying, VFriends version 1 way back in, last year around this time. I was getting excited about the mint coming up. But what's funny about that is like, I actually think it changes the trajectory of everything I have done since, because if I had gone all in VFriends, I probably own a couple of VFriends now, and it's probably maybe the only thing I'm paying attention to, and probably doesn't lead me down the other experiences that allows me to create this podcast and start on this journey with all of you. And so, like, it's so easy for us to like reverse, play that what if game or must be nice game. But sometimes we just got to play the game and you know what? Shit happens, life happens, things happen for a reason. And you know what? I'm just going to keep leaning in and trusting myself and betting on myself. And I will say like that to me is part of this, beautiful kind of melody that we are all creating. And for those playing at home with our Popstar game, which is proof of podcast, that's actually today's word. We are using music, in the theme of music NFTs, in the theme of harmony. That today's pop word, if you're playing, is melody. So if you jump over to NFT365.com/pop, P-O-P, and you fill out that form and give a guess for, put in today's pop, you will get your first of your 4 that you need for this month to qualify for your free NFT. So just check that out over there. And I actually think melody is an interesting one, right? Because I am musically challenged. I can't play an instrument. I can't sing. I can't dance. But I am addicted to music. I love live music. I love all sorts of music. And for those who aren't aware, big shout out to A Universe and Spliff. They actually DJ'd in our Discord last night, and they had all the music going. I of course had to recommend my personal favorite song of all time, which is "Regulators" by Warren G and Nate Dogg. Brings me back to my late 90s. I'm a proud pager wearing millennial, but it's also funny because for me, when like most of the time whenever people are asking about like what is my focus, and I always say I want to help people find the harmony between technology and humanity. But there's something beautiful about like the melody, right? The idea that there are certain things that capture certain people, and there's certain things that people can connect to, relate to. And I think that's also the way that this NFT space works, right? There's a couple projects. I had someone come at me on Twitter this week and they are like, Brian, why the hell did you buy this project for Mint365? Like, what about it could you possibly have liked? And they like raffled off what they thought was nonsense. And what's funny is the things that they hated about the project are actually the things I loved. And I recognize that like we are all playing different games. We all, on this journey, finding different value, different utility, different ways to quote unquote find our own version of success. And here's where I want to leave everyone on this episode is that gray area, because things are not super easy, and everyone that makes it seem like it's super easy, they are full of crap. Because if it was that easy, not only would everyone be doing it, but they would be doing it, and they wouldn't be living in their parents' basement. But it's also not that damn hard. You don't have to make things hard to make people recognize that you are an authority, or that you know things, or that you are into the things that you have going on. But that gray area is there's lots of places to lean in. And, I recommend listening and learning from multiple different people, being open to different possibilities. If you come to an event where I'm at speaking and you come, find me, you'll notice that the thing I often talk about is not just my own opinion, is I will challenge others. Like, hey, I saw that you have a mutant ape. What excited you about getting into the Mutant Ape project? And like, why have you held on to it this long? If you minted that mutant, like, why did you not dump out whenever you were, 15x, 10, 20x your buy-in? And I really love to know people's methodology, because guess what? I don't know everything. I don't even know most things. What I share with you here on this podcast is just my experience, my perspective. That's all I got for you. I got nothing else. I got nothing else for you. I have no secret recipe, ridiculous, easy button. But I think that's part of the beauty. And I will just remind us that we are not alone on this journey. And to me, that's the biggest stress that I make around Mental Health Awareness Month is that's what we have to remember, is that we are all unique. We don't know what people are going through. We don't know what your decisions are. We don't know why you sold out of a project. Maybe you sold out of the project because your monthly bills were due and you had to pay child support. And you know what? We were blaming that person for being an idiot for flipping out. But you know what? They took care of their obligation in life. And there's a lot of degenerate piece of shit people that would not do that and are failing in other ways. And I don't mean to get a little fired up there in a minute, but we don't know what people are going through, and we don't know people's decisions and what goes into those decisions. But I will say this, is that we are not alone on the journey. We all have things going on in our lives. We all have, pressures and we all have to make the decisions in those moments that are best for ourselves. And if that's what you're doing right now, I give you a full applause. I really do believe that the best thing we can do right now in this moment is what is best for us. Listen, learn, consume, realize that things aren't easy, and they're sure as hell not as hard as some people like to make them sound. But you can only do and set yourself up for the success that you want to achieve individually. And you are not alone on this journey. As always, we are super powered by the ADHD coin over on Rally. If you would I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. I know a lot of people listen all the time, but if you could subscribe, hit the subscribe button on whichever app that you're listening to the podcast on, that would mean the world to me. That way you get notified when we drop new episodes and all of this fun that we have going on. And we're coming up on this 6-month mark, and I might be teasing the 6-month mark a lot, but there's a reason, and I'll leave it with that. Until tomorrow, my friends, make it a great day. Cheers.